Here, guys.
Yes, sir. Go absolutely nowhere because we got the market recap today. There's a lot to go over, plenty of action, especially when it comes to those chips. The Mag 7, meh, not looking that great, but we had lots of opportunities. When the stocks go up, you can go long. When they go down, you can go short. That's the best part of trading. So, as I said, we're going to cover some things here for you. If I get something on Oracle, I'll let you guys know. We are expecting Oracle after the bell, so that's the major earnings play. Jumping right on into things, though, we always talk about the overall market and how we've been dragged to the upside. Oh my goodness, by the Mag 7. This was not it. The Meh 7 I just saw in the chat there, if he rhymes with AMC. The Meh 7? We can't. Yeah, one day we're calling them the Meh 7 already? Okay, let's have a bigger pullback and then we can talk about that. But overall strength did exist in a few places, and I want to start there. Let's put a smile on our faces if you happen to be long the semis. SMH, if you're surprised that SMH led the way today, then I don't know what market you were watching. Whether you trade the semis or not, you should at least be aware that the semiconductors were pulling us to the upside. 2.4% for the SMH. The only thing that gives you some kind of cause for concern, I don't even know, should I even be saying that? I don't even know if I can say that. Nothing? No, you can't say nothing. NVIDIA wasn't super strong today. Like, that would be the one thing, maybe you're a little bit concerned about that, but SMH, look at it breaking out to the upside. AMD was an absolute banger. We'll talk about AMD in the trade review today because that was a fantastic opportunity where you had to just join the trend, and that's what it was for me because it could have been red. I was 1 for 4 to start today on AMD, but you had one good long trade and then everything is fine. You can be positive on the stock when that happens. So SMH has led the way. You did have some strength in retail as well. This is what's spicy. Now, there was a great question in the chat asking about credit card debt, and is that a concern for the credit card holders and the consumer? Yes, it is. But until trade action starts reflecting it, you can't be too worried about it. Like, if you see retail going higher, you have good employment numbers as well, which is going to buoy the consumer, to be sure. If jobs are strong, it's hard to get that hard landing. You're going to get that soft landing if unemployment holds up, and we got some good numbers at the end of last week, and now you're seeing it reflected in retail going higher. I've said that I have some concerns about the consumer myself, but I don't let that cloud my judgment. If the market wants to go higher and show some strength in the retail sector, then you just trade the trend, right? Let analysts come up with those other reasons. So, yeah, retail has been a big push into the upside here today. It's not the only thing. You had the industrials doing very, very well. Now another sector which is running into some highs. You're at major resistance on the industrials, okay? Major resistance on those industrials. And finally, oh my goodness, how is it possible we had a green day with the Qs coming in fourth? Well, how did the Qs come in fourth today? Because all the big boys stunk. It's all your fault, Apple. Look at this move to the downside on Apple. It's your fault, Apple. It's your fault, Microsoft. Microsoft at the open. Okay, it's not your fault, Microsoft. Microsoft actually doing okay there, to be honest with you guys. Microsoft, I'm happy about the fact that Microsoft's actually pressing higher here, but Apple at the open flushing. Microsoft at the open with a $4 move to the downside. You had Meta at the open, Huadunk. It had a $10 move to the downside. A lot of these did find their way into rebounding, but this was the story in the morning. It's the reason we can have an update not led by the Qs, which is fine. That is not necessarily a bad thing. Overall, tech hit the highs again, but it was not with the Mag 7. It's a good thing that they're not having to do the heavy lifting every single day. If you're not happy with an update in the markets where those names all pull back in, then you don't like bull markets, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not upset, CompSRX. I'm just calling out these names for falling too fast. I wanted to short Apple this morning. I wanted to short it off 196. It fell $4 from 927 to 930. It is what it is. Moved on, found another short opportunity, and it was there for me. So we're already like 5 minutes in here. Oracle, by the way, I haven't seen the numbers, but I do see Oracle flushing to the downside. Well, remember when Neil said it needs to get above when I said it needs to get above the 118 level, that's going to be a big test for Oracle. I only want to be a buyer above it, breaking back out, yada, yada, yada. Well, Oracle's failing into the downside here. I see them beating 134 versus 132, but revenue missed by about 100 million here. Haven't seen anything on the guide just yet. 10% increase in earnings over year, but you cannot miss on revenue, not when you're failing major resistance at that 118 level. That's not necessarily a great sign there. So it looks like the revenue was a 5% increase. So single digit increase on revenues is not going to generally get it done when you are facing major resistance. The good news for Oracle, let me pop out the daily chart before we get into the trade review because we care about the stocks that are moving here. The good news for Oracle, it's trading down in the 108 level, and 100, it had a world of buying at that level. So you're just barely getting back into these key levels. I think the 108 is where it looks pretty juicy. From there, 100's been fantastic on Oracle. So not the best look here for Oracle, but it's finding stability in the aftermarket pretty much where you'd hope that it would. You want those previous resistance spots to kind of turn into support. First step would be holding on to this 108. It's early. Price action at 405 or 410 means nothing when you come in the next day. Unless you're looking for a scalp long, to me 100 is the bigger level. That's the area that I like for support on Oracle, but I like the fact you're holding this 108. So good start if it can manage to hold this level. But that 118, that was a big kill spot. Can't miss on revenue, Oracle, when you have major resistance out in front of you. That's not a good look at all for Oracle. Talking about a trade review, we'll see what happens trending tomorrow in Oracle, whatever direction it might be. But I will say this, don't fight the trend. Whatever bias you come into tomorrow, if you want to trade the big earnings name, don't let the bias get the best of you, because the trend at the end of the day is going to be your friend. And I'll talk about what happened on AMD here, because this is the trade I'm the most happy with. I fought the trend on Macy's and lost today. I had like 3 really good shorts and then one that really stunk. And the one that really stunk, I allowed it to ruin my day. And you should not let that happen. I'm usually very, very disciplined about never letting one bad trade turn me red on a stock or have one outsized loss in terms of having a max loss on one position. If I had 4 losing trades on it and lost the amount I did, I'd be okay with it, but I shouldn't have it happen on one. Now, AMD could have been the same story. You had resistance at 132. I like the short off 132. And the funny thing about it is, it initially worked shorting off of 132, and sometimes that's just going to happen. Let's go with the daily again and just do that picture-in-picture thing. So there's your 132 level. And I'm going to pop this to a 3-minute chart and then do this little fun thing where you double-click. So 132 right at the open was a good short. It failed 132, pulled right into 131. I'm like, okay, we got the right level, got the short, it worked a little bit, comes back into reload, stopped out. But what did I do? Did I average back into it? Nope. As a matter of fact, I had shorted the 130 for a 30-cent hit, so I was actually 0 for 2. And then the reload, we went 0 for 3. There was one good winning short in there, so I'm 1 for 4 at this point. But what happens? AMD rocket ships up. I miss it. But this is the 132 level. That's our key, right? 132. What happens when it holds support? If that's the level you like and it holds support at that level, it doesn't matter what your bias was. It's an upward trending stock, and the previous resistance level is showing you support. You just buy it. That is a setup. I talk about this all the time. When support turns into resistance and resistance into support, if it's a big level as a day trader, that's where you should trade. And if you can follow the trend with that, that's what you should be doing. So it gave the trade off for the 132 level. I was all out by the time it got to 134, and we had a scalp trade in the afternoon, 34 to 34.5. But all you need is one good trade. That's a $2 move, whether you capture an average of $1 in it, like I usually will on a level like that because I'm getting out on the way up, that can make up for 3 hits on the stock easily. And then you can be green and actually positive pretty well on it. That's the thing about catching that one good trade and acknowledging when you're wrong. So 2 for 5 today on AMD ends up being my number 2 stock on the day. And that's because you join the trend and hold for the move and have tight stops when you're wrong. That's what it's all about. I don't care what style of trade it is that you do, or look, it's not about style of trade. Whether you guys are momentum traders or swing traders or whatever style you guys might have, the fundamental rules of trading are going to apply when it comes to risk to reward and not being stubborn and following the trend and having it out and holding on to your winners longer and getting out when you know you're wrong. All of those things are always going to matter. I just want to double check. I'm going to keep this nice and big so I can go back to Oracle. Oracle is still, yeah, it's not holding this 108 level, unfortunately, on Oracle. Not looking pretty good here, but I don't know. No, okay, okay. We're good. I was about to jump. I didn't know if I heard Ramin just say NOS, and apparently he's not ready just yet. So I didn't know that. I didn't know. So I was like, I don't want to keep the man waiting. It's the NOS boss. I'm not keeping the NOS boss waiting. But Oracle's still looking rather sick here, unfortunately. It's not looking too good. I wanted to see it hold that 108. It's a good sign that it's made a bit of a bottom in here. I haven't seen anything that stands out. In terms of their numbers, it looks like, I mean, the cloud revenue was up 25%. I mean, their cloud infrastructure revenue was up 52%. You had double digits across the board. It looks like it, I mean, it's the revenue miss overall that looks like it's a bit of a problem. So they're saying demand for cloud infrastructure and generative AI services increasing at an astronomical rate. What else are they going to say? We know everyone is spending on AI infrastructure. But you know what's even better than saying they're doing that? Actually beating on revenue. Having the numbers justify that as well. So this is why it's getting punched today. This stock's going to be fine in the long term. It's just a matter of, hey, it matters a heck of a lot more when you actually have the numbers come through. NVIDIA certainly taught us that lesson as well. M. Mason in the chat just said, Lucid, ouch. I mean, we're bagging on Lucid when the market's closed? Seriously? Yeah. We're bagging on Lucid when the market's closed, apparently, because Lucid down 7%. This Lucid, and this probably applies to, and I'm just riffing here, but this probably applies to a lot of the EV names. Not everyone's going to survive the next 5 to 10 years, but the story here with Lucid is Sherry House is resigning the CFO, effective immediately to pursue other opportunities. Looks like Gagan Dhingra is serving as an interim there. So the story on Lucid, why it's down the 6% after market, their CFO leaving, which is not generally a good thing when a stock is under pressure, when they've already had to raise capital, all of those things piling on here for Lucid. Maybe they're one of the winners. I mean, I would probably put Rivian a little bit more ahead of them, but not necessarily a good look here for Lucid, down this 6%. But we did tee it up, and thank you, Fabian. I never want to keep the man himself waiting. We got Trader Talk coming up right now. You know who he is. And it's Mr. Michael Noss. First off, before we get into things, Michael, I want to just say sorry we couldn't meet up for drinks in Halifax. I know we're trying to get together. I'm not out there very often, but I had to cut my trip a day short and spending time with the family, which I'm glad I did. But when I do come the next time, I'll make sure that we get to hang out. Halifax is a great place. I didn't even get any seafood.
And as we were chatting about online there, you got to spend time with family, right? I'll try to make a trip up there at some point to hang out. But yeah, when you got limited time with your family, that's obviously the most important thing. Now, also, if I just disappear in the middle of this, the moment you left, the weather just went crazy out there. So we've got a crazy windstorm going on. So if I just disappear, it's not me, it's the power.
I hope that doesn't happen, but I know how storms get out there. Like when I was there, I mean, you saw how quickly that snowstorm came in. It's the East Coast. Weather moves fast, so best of luck to you. I'll check in on my brother, make sure everything's okay there. He's got condo life now, so he's probably not too worried about it, though. So can we, the first thing I think about today is I sort of opened with a rant talking about this. It was okay that the Mag 7 didn't cover us today. I don't know what the heck happened from 9:27 to 9:30, but all you could do as a day trader was look for opportunities in the weakness in the Mag 7, but the Q still ended up higher. You had several sectors show tons of strength, and we managed to have an up day when you had a massive sell event, across the board on every single one of those 7 names. Now, is it possibly related to the index rebalancing on Friday? I'm sure there's something to do with it there, but I don't know exactly what happened. But I am happy to see that the market was able to be strong regardless.
Yeah, and I've actually, if you come to my screen right here, this is a widget we have on the web version that's going to be in the downloaded version too, along with the heat maps, which I noticed you're in Prost Market. I haven't gotten you the heat maps yet, but I'll get those on your guys' computer soon. But yeah, we have this advanced decliner distribution, and basically this is just showing of all the stocks in the market. We're not just looking at S&P 500 names or anything like that. We're looking at absolutely everything, what was up and by how much. And earlier on in the day, I actually made a tweet because even though we were up on the day, there was more red than green, which basically meant there was more stocks down on the day than up. But that actually changed about mid-afternoon, and we actually closed up on the day. So as you're talking about, if the big tech isn't participating, but the market's still up, I think what we're seeing here is quote unquote an everything rally. So everything under the hood was trying to catch up to the market, which is amazing. That's what you want to see. Ralph Alcampora, the CMT or the godfather of the CMT, always said that rotation is the lifeblood of a bull market. So moving out of big cap tech and moving into more individual names is exactly what you want to see. Another way you can take a look at that is actually one of my favorite ETFs to watch, which is the RSP. So RSP is actually our equal weighted S&P 500. So just to quickly explain to everybody, I know you understand, Neil, but to everyone else, the S&P 500 is what they call cap weighted, which means the bigger the company, the more impact it has on the S&P 500. The RSP takes the same 500 names in the S&P 500, but then weights them by just dividing them by 500. So a tiny S&P 500 name has the same impact on this ETF as a large S&P 500 name. And what you saw today is a pretty dramatic breakout on this. So what this shows is that under the hood, there's a lot of names in the S&P 500 moving up. This ETF only moves when there is broad market participation, which is what we saw today, which is again exactly what you want to see if you're a trader looking for individual names and you're not just focused on these kind of big cap guys.
Yeah, I mean it's a great look to point out the RSP. The only my frustration with that ETF being Canadian is that it's like RSP, which is exactly like our registered retirement savings plan. So when I
Yep.
hear it, it's like, okay, is the person are you actually talking about the equal weight, or are you talking about our retirement name there? I want to jump to one thing because you just said we had an everything rally. So we strive to get things right here, Michael, and I hate to tell you this, but it was not an everyday rally, an everything rally, because gold, silver, and natural gas had a problem today. But gold and silver had a bit of a pullback. Now, I think that's to be expected when you have a more broad equity rally. But I know your thoughts on gold. Does that change at all as we start to have a further breakout there? Now, obviously, you're going to care maybe more about what's going on with currencies or the charts, but it wasn't necessarily everything. It was a decent, 1% back in on gold. Literally the only three things on my chart that were sectors that were to the downside.
Yeah, so just bringing up a gold chart here, and for me, this is just exactly what I want to see. So, for anyone who's been following us on the show, I've been hammering the table on gold here for a really long time. This is the monthly chart, so we're talking really, really long term, and you can see kind of this cup and handle pattern that's taken place. That's pretty much my synopsis for gold. But also commented when I did my monthly chart review here is that all of these topping tails that we're seeing up in this call it 190 area for gold. Now, it makes sense then that we're gonna have issues there, and we're gonna reject that area, or at least we're gonna have some bit of issue there. So when we were up there, I took a little bit of profits off the table. However, I'm looking to buy on dips. So one thing that I'm actually watching here is if you draw an anchored VWAP, and I know you guys have Brian Shannon on all the time, and he's kind of the anchored VWAP king. From this last low right here, and this is the October low, before we had this monster rally in gold. We're getting close to that now. It's sitting at about 182.50. So I'm still holding, call it a core position of gold, but I'm trying to trade around that position by selling when it hits resistance, trying to buy back in when it gets to support. Ideally, what I want to see it pull into that anchored VWAP, give me some sign that there's some support going on a lower time frame chart, or see some bullish candlesticks or something there. And then I want to load back in, because if we're going to break this high, I want to be very, very long gold, but not irresponsibly, right? So if we're going to get up there and we're going to fail like we did, I'm going to get out some. I can actually show you on the chart here where I got out and why, is because we had this giant rally day right here. And then the next day we gapped down and we completely erased that whole rally. And as soon as that rally couldn't hold, I knew it was time to take that chunk off. I had a good profit because the last time I was buying was the first touch of this anchored VWAP. So I took some of that off the table, but I'm still hungry for more. I'm still betting that this cup and handle pattern plays out to the long side at some point. So I'm going to see if, again, the big if, we get support near that anchored VWAP. I think I'm going to be adding back into gold here.
So what I want everyone to do, like, if hit the like right now just for that, because I think it's all well and good to have a long and have a bias, have a good trade, but have a plan of action, because taking profits matters. What I love about that, hold a core position, right? Like, pay yourself out for making a quality decision and a good trade. You don't make anything until you cover something. But once you had a really good reason, and if I saw that same setup and that was a day trade, and if that was like it was failing that high on like my 3-minute or my 5-minute chart, that is an easy take profit, whether it's half, quarter, or something along those lines. So I love to see that. But you're holding that core position and you still like the long, which is the key. So sometimes it's about managing that position. You said responsibly. We try to trade responsibly at all times. That should go without saying. But I love that you pointed that out there, Michael, because what to do with winners sometimes is not the easiest thing out there. A lot of people struggle with it. How do I hold on to more? Where do I take profit? So it's really important that we discuss that.
Yeah, I would argue that what to do with winners is probably the hardest part of trading, because ideally you have a entry criteria of some description. I don't think it truly matters too much what it is. Hopefully you're trading with the trend. You're either buying breakouts or pullbacks or whatever it is. And then hopefully when you enter the trade, you also have a protective stop loss. So losing trades are simple. We just flickered there a bit, but losing trades are simple because you take the trade, you get stopped out, and you get a little mad, and you move on with your day, and it's fine. The winning trades, that's the problem, is because that's when you get that kind of greed emotion of, and I even had that in my head, and I always do when I sold that gold position. I say, well, what if I'm selling right now, and then it just turns around and just rips through highs, and I don't have a chance to load up on that position. So I only have the 1/3 of the position I have left as opposed to the big one. But you have to do that because, as you said, you got to pay yourself something. But I also look at it as, now I can compound more, because now the power I think we have of traders, as opposed to buy and hold people, is you buy something for $100 and you sell it for 110. Well, if you can buy it back for that $100 price, well, you have that profit that you can put into it as well. So it allows you to compound more. So if gold holds this level, I can take not only the original position I had, but plus the profits I made, and put that in there. And it allows you to grow your position, while again not growing your risk. Because now, if we ever break kind of this low here at 180, well, I'll probably move out of that entire position and then wait for another opportunity. But yeah, it's the entries are pretty easy, at least for me. Entries are easy, stop losses are easy. The when to get out for profits, that's the hard part.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to be, when you're on that, like, I call it like disciplined, risk averse kind of style, I tend to find it the same way. I don't really get overly emotional about losses. I tend to always think about, like, how can I be better at holding and taking profits and that kind of good stuff. But we only have 5 minutes here. So obviously we just talked about the overall market. We talked a little bit about gold. You stayed bullish. I think that's the right thing to do. But is there anything specifically, not the broad market? Like, you talked about some names this morning that are setting up for you, but is there anything that sort of stands out for you? We're starting the weekend here. We have the Fed. We've got index rebalancing. There's a lot that's going on this week. So is there anything that catches your eye starting off this week?
So one thing that I thought was interesting, I'll go to my my ETF list here, and again, we'll get you guys set up. This is part of Trade Ideas now, the ability to make these heat maps on any top list that you have.
Love it.
So as I was looking through this heat map on the close, one thing that I noticed that was interesting, and you can see it got really big here when I made it full screen, is this ARC ETF down. So we talked about the market was up, semiconductors was up, XLI, XLK, everything here was up, but ARC was down. And the way I look at ARC and the reason that I watch it so closely is not because of I'm actually interested in the index, but I'm more using it as an investment style to look at, where the essentially it is my proxy for unprofitable large tech growth type companies, and to have that down on the day when a lot of these other indices were up and we had this kind of broad market rally makes me think that there's some rotation out there. So I'm going to start looking, and this is what I have to do kind of after the close today, of more call it value type names. So these aren't the names that are super fun to play and they don't get a lot of talk about on news. But if we're getting this rotation out of these growth plays that have been doing so well since that last pullback and really all year, and we're getting into more of these names, I want to take a look at it. And one of these sectors is actually XLV, which is our healthcare sector. And the SPY pushed up a little bit. RSP we just showed pushed up a little bit more, but XLV, the this healthcare sector, really had a great day. The percentage return isn't wild, but if you look at the chart, had a pretty clean breakout, came back to test that breakout area and then closed higher. So I'm going to start taking a look at more of these value oriented areas, looking at things like healthcare. That might mean some Moderna or Pfizer, or maybe even looking more at Eli Lilly and these Ozempic companies. More of a focus there and a little bit less of a focus as what's been working for so long when it comes to these big tech and these big speculative names. Now, again, exactly what we want to see for a sustained bull market is rotation out of one sector and into another. So that's what I'm spending a lot of my time doing, is trying to predict what sector could be next. And just an initial look at that heat map, XLV really stood out to me.
No, I love that look, and to be honest, I'm glad you pointed that out because I did not notice that about ARC today, and that's not a small deal. I mean, ARC also had a bit of a resistance point on the daily chart as well, so you could be right about that rotation. I like healthcare myself, and healthcare doing it without Lilly today because Lilly had some bad news, so it's pulling back a little bit. That makes it, I think, even stronger. UNH, I noticed, wasn't even that strong today, so that is a great sign. Thank you as always, Michael. We made it. We
did
made it. You didn't have a power outage, so best of luck. Obviously, I know how
Knock
storms
on
can
wood
get
here.
out east. I do like that. That looks pretty nice there. I'll have to come by and visit. As I said, thank you for So I reneged a little bit on my visit out there. We'll grab a beer the next time. We'll see you back on on Friday. Best of luck on your trading week. Thank you for stopping by. Michael Noss, Trade Ideas. Love that heat map. Love the talk on gold. Best of luck trading this week.
Yeah, again, you spent time with family. It's what you should have done. Maybe I'll make a trip out of here the end of next year, or the early next year, and we'll get a good special going or something. But I'll definitely see you in person sooner rather than later.
Sounds good, and for sure we'll have beers on me if you come here, 100%. If that's, or we can grab some food too as well. Thank you very much, Michael Noss. The viewers love it as well. Always gracious, great ideas. As always, take care.
Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness, well, you see this countdown silly thing that is always there. I'm not going to cut Michael off when we're talking. We only have 20 seconds, but frankly, I don't give a you-know-what. Everyone in the chat saying thank you. I do want to make sure we get a roll call. I wanted to take a couple of questions in there. I don't know if we'll have time for that. For anyone that's curious before I get into roll call, Oracle is still holding lower. It could not hold on to the 108. 100 is the good level on the daily. I think that's bigger. Hopefully we get a chance at that one tomorrow. But shout out to Lava News in the chat. Andrew Chow saying another great show. Thank you for tuning in. Aldrich, what up? 4S Live. Also, Pauly D. You ain't Pauly D. That's D's up in the chat. You know who you are. We love you. Tom Trades, I see you there. Dynamite making that last second spin. I hope that one works out for you. Of course you hit it. 10-1, Dynamite. You just won that spin. I'm like 0 for 5 on the spins today. Shout out to Prania, Bristol, Howell Capital, Bitcoin Trader, Gary Mai, Mr. Westermeyer. What else? What did you just hit me with in the air? Oh, I can show the list. Fine, I'll show the list. There you go. Let's show it as well. Mr. Westermeyer, we'll see you next week. You're a good man. Henry Chung out there as well. Juan, Patrick, HPDS, Tom Trades, Pitchbull, Fat Figure number 1 every single day in the chat after I put it live, so technically I'm always number 1. Eliza Raider in the chat there as well. Elon, Daryl, Chris J. Thank you so much, all of you. Mark, Kiki Manga. Thanks for all you do. Thank you for tuning in and enjoying the show. It's always fun doing this with you guys. Chef Joe, what up? Been a while. Bob Karan as well in there. K Debs, Mr. Allen, Rhodesy, Angry Bear. Yes, Angry Bear. I like that one. That's a great name in there. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I hope you had a very, very fun day in trading and a successful day. It was a great day to be long, but you had to be sitting it out with those Mag 7. They were mostly pretty weak in there. Shout out to Obi, of course, stepping in. It was a great show, stepping in for my man Sean. I'm here for him every single day. We're going to do the same thing regardless. If you have not checked out the podcast, we'll drop this weekend with Brendan and Sean. Tune into that. You can listen to that on your way home after this. You can listen to it. I don't know. Do whatever you do during your drive, in the morning, rush, in the shower, whatever you want to do. Make sure you check out that podcast. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But with that, we're past time, and I'm going to get us out of here. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, as always, at 8:30 at Trader TV Live.